So folks who are joining us here on the Zoom and of course live on the Navitas Facebook page, welcome to another amazing installment of Thursday Thoughts, where we chat with innovation and thought leaders now from around the country because we're virtual. My man Nick is local, so we didn't go far reaching this time, but definitely join us every other Thursday when we have some really innovative and thought-provoking discussions about different topics that'll help you grow your business. And super excited today. Today's gonna be a good one. We're talking about TV and digital advertising and specifically how it relates to small business. So I'm actually gonna give you a little insight on our guest here. Let me show you his bio. I'm gonna read this to you. So again, we have with us Nick Celenza. Nick is a South Jersey local kid, so you know he's definitely an Eagles fan, just like me, hurting just like me. But even more impressive, he's actually a former Marine, and he's turned to advertising consultant now in his professional career. Nick grew up in the area and found his passion in helping people, so serving his country was an important part of his life and who he is. After an injury cut his time in the service short, Nick had to pivot to find his new passion. And after working for the Travis Manion Foundation, which is an awesome foundation, please go follow them if you're not familiar. Nick found himself starting to work for Comcast as an advertising media consultant for local businesses. So every day he strives to help his clients navigate the extensive world of digital marketing. And we are currently in and help them effectively use their budget to coincide with their goals. So Nick is kind of like me. He's an educator. He's educating folks on what they can do with digital advertising, providing them, options and solutions to help them get their business seen, known, and patronized by the folks who are watching these commercials and ads. So Nick, welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Again, thank you very much for your service, and we're super happy to have you.
Thanks, Zach. Very happy to be here. I'm excited to share, what I do. I love it every day.
Awesome. So first things first. So it's funny when I talk about TV advertising and digital ads. I'm older than you, Nick. I'm almost in my late 30s. I'm still holding on to mid 30 status right now. But I remember when the internet wasn't a thing, and I remember watching TV with my family and the one TV we had in our house at dinner, and watching commercials and paying attention to them. I mean, I could still recite back to you at least 20 or 30 commercials I saw from my childhood. And sometimes when I hear advertising and commercial, that's where my mind goes. I almost don't even, first off, these commercial ads are playing on every single platform possible. And sometimes when I see it on other platforms, I don't look at it as a commercial. It's a different sort of response I get to it. Even when we first started having DVRs, and it was like, oh, you can just record what you want to watch and skip past the commercials. That was great. I don't think about that in terms of streaming, partially because you can't. But it feels different to me than it used to. And I think that's one thing that, folks need to understand, is that advertising and TV space and digital space, it's so different. It's constantly evolving. And it's one of those things where you really have to get a good education on it so you can make a sound decision one way or the other. Because I know for me, being a small business and working with tons of small businesses, 20 years ago, we would have never thought advertising on TV. It's way too much money. Now you can strategically say, these are the audience I want to hit. And you can advertise on TV and only be in certain households and in certain areas. So you're not spending money, you're not wasting your budget. And I know I'm leading into what we're going to talk about a lot today, but it's just really exciting to me. We were talking about this. I wrote this down. I said, for years, advertising on TV has been reserved for the big spenders. Sellers of ads had very few options to offer, and they all centered around what time slot you wanted your advertisement to appear. Today, it is completely different. And when I asked you to tell me a little bit about how they were different, the first thing you mentioned was it's no longer just TV. So just give people an oversight. Where else can you put an ad? Where else does this go now that it's not just TV?
So I'm glad you hit on that, because what you were talking about was video advertising, those TV commercials you see when you're a kid. So where else are everybody consuming videos nowadays? I know for myself, I'm one of those people that I'm terrible. I'll sit and watch the TV laying on the couch, and I'll scroll on my phone at the same time. I might get hit with the same ad multiple places, but people stream, they think they're going to save a ton of money, which some of them do. And they'll get, different streaming devices, Roku's, Apple TVs and stuff like that. Those still have commercials. Those are still video streaming devices. People will see ads on their phone. You pull up the latest app to see that game last night, see a Jimmy Butler highlight, something like that. There's a pre-roll ad there. What you don't know is that that ad is actually targeted specifically towards you.
Right.
And you and your household are seeing something different than the person next door, which was not always the case with our advertising. TV, counties. If you're in a different county, you'll be seeing something different than someone in the county over. Same channel, same program. There's a very good chance it'll be different. So tons of different ways that people are viewing, and that's where the different shares of their time is going.
Right, right. And that's so interesting. When you mentioned that, I was like, so literally where I'm living, someone can be in the next town over watching the same program, and they might be getting a different commercial, and that being based on the data that you've helped a client select, if they want to hit a certain income level or a certain region or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like that back in the day. Like,
Exactly.
I actually remember talking about commercials with other people because I know we were watching the same thing when the Budweiser commercial and the frogs were doing the thing. Like, it was like water cooler talk the next day because everyone saw the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That might not be the case even when you're watching like big productions or shows. Like, could I even be watching the Eagles game and another person watching the Eagles game somewhere else is seeing a different commercial than me?
Yes, absolutely. And that all is based on our local advertising. Obviously, there's still regional and national people that can, if you see a big company, a big corporation, Walmart, McDonald's, something like that, they buy it nationally. So everyone usually sees those, but it's when you get down to the local level that if I can tell you, if you're Camden County or a Center City based business, you're going to be on the Eagles or Monday Night Football specifically within that geofence zone. That's very important for them. That saves their ad spend, and it helps them, save any excess money that they don't need to be spending. Center City based business has no reason to advertise in Atlantic City. Just not very likely that's going to be your customer.
Gotcha. And so the other interesting thing also with it not being on TV are the platforms and devices that people are watching on, which, I'll let you speak to this in a little detail, but I can say throughout quarantine, so for the last like 7 months, I would say 90% of what I've watched has either been on my laptop or on my phone, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit on my tablet. Fourth is the actual television set that I have in my house. So tell me a little bit about how it's changed in relation to platforms and devices.
So, that's the biggest thing. What we do is multi-screen advertising. So these people like myself and like you are viewing their media in many different ways. And the point of what we're doing is we try and get our businesses in front of their most likely to be customers, however they're watching. So, through the Wi-Fi in the house, based on their buying habits, demographics, income, things that you spoke on, we're actually able to get on all of their screens with trackable results. That's the coolest part. We not only can put your ad there in front of exactly who you're looking for, but then we can see and give you customer insights. What are they watching? Where was this ad played? What app, what website? That way we can really optimize the campaign and see if there's anything else we should add to it. Let's say we see that they're on the NFL website a ton or ESPN. Maybe we look at putting an ad on ESPN, just those customer insights onto the income levels and things like that. Because like you said, there's tablets, phones, streaming devices, gaming systems that people, and we can insert on all of those. You mix that in with TV, it all complements each other and supplements to your brand awareness.
Gotcha. And you mentioned, that trackable data. I think that is so important. Demographics of doing this digital, and it's interesting because sometimes when I hear digital, I am thinking social media, like that's what my mind goes to, but it's really every single type of medium of streaming that you're getting on these smart devices. And even TV kind of is in that digital space. I mean, the data and the demographics you're getting isn't just because someone's on a phone. You're getting data when people are watching it on their household TVs as well. So, I think, in my opinion, that is the most pivotal element of this new world of advertising and how small businesses can play. It's all about the demographics. What's your take on the demographics and how that's kind of changed and evolved over the last decade, 2 decades?
You know, the demographics and the data, that's really what it is. You mix them together and you're cooking with gas. That's the end of it. You know, when you are able to take our first party data that we match up with third party data of, you know, different credit profiles, different things like that, where we can see, hey, you're a furniture store. Maybe you like to target people who recently took out a mortgage, or maybe you're a small business that supplies tools to local hardware or general contractors.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's who you want to target. And through those profiles, we're actually able to see what small business owners are watching. And then we use our systems to really target them. Our audience intelligence is by far the most outstanding in the industry, just because we're able to give all of these insights mixed in with our targeting systems.
No, that's super awesome. That's awesome. And you know, kind of how this all comes together, because I think if I'm a small business, I'm listening to this and I'm like, all right, that all sounds great. I don't fully get it. You know, clearly I'll have to speak to someone like Zach or Nick or someone else to kind of help me understand it or walk through it to really put together a game plan. But the one thing that I know all small businesses can relate to, and that this overall helps them, is this last bullet point: affordability. I think that is the key that makes all of this make sense for a small business. And I equate it to just, you know, thinking about those commercials you used to see where everyone saw it. It was expensive to make sure everyone saw it. And a lot of your money was going to show an ad to someone who might have zero interest, or there's no way they can afford it, or, you know, some sort of barrier as to why, you know, they're not going to, you know, move forward with your product. But you take the data and the demographics, and now instead of it being, hey, you need a $50,000 budget to run this commercial for the next X amount of, you know, weeks or months or whatever your deal is. No, you only need $5,000 to run this for the next month and a half. And guess what? Instead of it hitting 200,000 people every week, it's only going to hit 3,000 people every week, but it's hitting the exact people that want your product and service. That impact and ability to get you those results at a much lower price point, I think that's what makes it attractive and makes it interesting to me. What's your take on the affordability factor, Nick?
Absolutely. And that's our biggest thing. You know, we are a custom budget, custom audience, custom agency. You know, at the end of the day, no two businesses are exactly the same. And no two advertising plans or campaigns should be exactly the same. Because if they are, you know, you're doing some cookie cutter type business, and it might have worked for XYZ business down the street, but where you're located, maybe you need to target something different. So, you know, like you said, saving that money just simply because you are only targeting such a smaller market of exactly who your customers are. So there's no need to spend the absurd amount of money that people used to spend on TV. You can get much more effective results for much lower investments now that we've advanced our data and systems.
Right. So before we dig in a little deeper on the effectiveness of using these digital ads, quick reminder to anyone who is watching on Facebook, or if you've joined the Zoom, feel free to put a question in the comments or in the chat. We will get to that in just a little bit. If you're on the Zoom, you can literally just yell out in the middle of us talking. You don't really have to put it in the chat. I'm all about interruptions. So if something you want to ask or want us to clarify on, just shout it out. If you're on Facebook, just leave a comment, and I'll get to those shortly. So to keep this train going, so effectiveness of digital ads. So I think it's really important for folks to know that, you know, the days of throwing money to the wind in a marketing campaign are gone. You know, marketing in general has always been one of those things where it's always been a little difficult to track, to know if that investment was appropriate. There is an element of strategy, but there's also a little bit of luck. Sometimes a little guessing comes into play. There's a lot of different things that can go into that, specifically back in the day. Now there's so much data and so much information that you can be really precise on how you're spending your marketing dollars. Digital advertising allows for detailed feedback on results, providing you with that information to make an educated decision on future campaigns. And Kevin, I'm not sure if you're on the Zoom now or not, but I know Kevin, he's like a genius when it comes to SEO. And one of the things we talk about a lot is when we have clients at Navitas that are using SEO services, we tell them it's a process. It's not we work on your SEO and next week you're getting increased results. It's a process of doing work, evaluating the results, and adjusting, and then adjusting, and then adjusting after these evaluation periods. And that's kind of how this seems to be as well with digital ads. I know I was asking you, what are those things you track? Like, what are those things that you help? And the first thing you told me was you track viewing devices, like the device that someone is viewing it on. Tell me what the importance of that is, you know, in the grand scheme of advertising.
Well, obviously what we discussed, there was multiple different ways that people are streaming. And if we notice that, let's say your audience segment isn't using them too often, or maybe they're using them way more often than we thought, and your impression count every month is over what we expected, that you're just getting an insane amount of stuff. So basically what we're able to do is see exactly what percentage of your digital views, this is apart from the TV side of it, but what part of your streaming views are viewed on what? Let's say they're all viewed on MSN.com and 90% of them are from the computer. Maybe that shows that your audience isn't as tech savvy as we thought. Maybe they don't have tablets and smartphones and gaming devices, that kind of stuff. So we can adjust the campaign. Like you said, it's not an overnight thing. It's very much a living, breathing campaign that if we notice something that we can feed into it to make it perform even better, we're going to make that choice. So tracking the viewing devices is huge for those reasons, giving those customer insights.
Gotcha. And another thing, so you even gave me a pretty cool story about this one, but identifying the best programming matches. Mm-hmm. And that's really interesting to me because even me myself, I produce a Eagles talk show or a pregame show, and I'm looking for advertisers for that. And I'm just thinking, well, it's someone who wants to reach Eagles fans. But it also, there are businesses that might not be thinking about Eagles fans that would be a good match for my program. And quite frankly, I'm not sure exactly how to identify those businesses and go after them, but tell me a little bit about what this programming match process is like and how, it might not be who you assume.
Sure. Yeah. So, as we track the viewing devices, we're also able to track the content. So what that means for our customers is we can see exactly where these views are happening. And a few things that we have noticed, the example that I gave you, we had a client that he did not have a TV ad running on HGTV. And then when we went and looked at the end of his first month, local landscaper, we saw that almost 70% of his views online were from the HGTV app. So what that means on our end, we obviously needed to get something on there. But being able to have that insight and notice the difference, after that, we were able to get him even more customers because these people, home improvement type audience that we have based on their buying habits, that's what they were watching. So being able to adjust the campaign midway through at the drop of a hat is really what a lot of our customers love because it helps them pivot. Let's say they have a new sale or something like that, where we can give them that audience insight and then put them exactly where they want to be.
Awesome. Another thing that I think was really effective when it comes to digital ads was integrating them with a website and kind of having these tools work together. That's a big thing with marketing campaigns is, the fact that all these pieces really need to intertwine for your effectiveness. And I've worked with a lot of folks, this is before they got into digital ads or anything like that, where, they want a commercial or they want an explainer video, something to show off what they do. We go about creating it, and then we look at the website and we say, well, the website's not really at a level where you can take advantage of this. So you're going to drive traffic there, but the flow of your website doesn't really hold people. It doesn't really get them to go further down this sales funnel. Tell me about how websites that can track your marketing efforts and are properly set up benefit from you doing digital ads.
Absolutely. So one of our biggest things that we've really stepped into recently with this digital space is that at the end of every contract that we have with our clients, we ask for Google Analytics read-only access. Now, what that gives us is not only insights on what they were doing before and what their web traffic looked like, but then we're able to track from the day the campaign starts, how that web traffic goes up, where it comes from, and being able to attribute that to our campaign with them. If the only thing that they changed was adding us on and went up 40% prior to last month or last year, they have to give us a little bit of credit and hope that, it continues to work on that pace.
Right. So we're going to jump now into discussing how small businesses kind of get prepared to go into digital advertising. Quick reminder, definitely throw us questions in the comments or in the chat. We actually have a great question here on the chat from Joy. She wrote, can you explain why advertising is so important even during times of COVID? And how has the times changed the way we advertise? So that's a great question. I know we kind of were talking holistically how advertising went from what it was like 20 years ago, 30 years ago to now. I think advertising has taken another shift, not a dramatic one, but another shift from March to now. And to answer that first part of your question, I think it's vitally important because communication is key. To know who's open, who's not. That's a very simple, like, you need to know that if you're going to patronize a business. Are they open or not? But you want to give out more information about your business or your service during these times because everything is in question. So I almost look at it as if you were to do this on your social media. Social media is digital advertising. Now, it's free initially. You know, there's going to be time and energy in putting together your posts or your visual. Maybe you're using Canva to create a graphic. But when you put that information out there saying you're open, or that you're only open these hours, or that you're showing off the level of cleaning you're doing at your establishment, or you're letting your people know that you are still providing XYZ services, that is you advertising out to your already established audience the status of what's going on with your business. Doing it this way, going with the digital ads, first off, you're probably targeting folks that aren't already in your funnel. So this is more, I'm going to try to, I know what my demographic is. I know these people who follow me. I know, why they follow me. I know the general demographic of the people who use my service. Let me do some sort of advertising to this demographic for people that don't know my service, to get them to understand that not only am I a business that can help them, but also all the other compliance things that I'm doing now in these COVID times that I just let my sort of already following group know. I want the masses to know that as well. And then what I always harp on is, typically to do that, again, that's a lot of stuff I just said. To go out and explain that, like, you can only do that on your social media. You can't do everything you do on social media on a digital ad or a video ad. That would be 20 minutes of video. So what I tell people is figure out what you need to relate and turn that into a really good crafted, created piece, hopefully 30 seconds or less, that can be put out as an advertisement, as a commercial, whether it be on TV, on Netflix, on some platform where people consume, and where Nick can kind of have that data to figure out, all right, these are the type of folks you want. Now you got them a ton of information portrayed in a very quick, concise way. I know folks who've listened to most of our Thursday Thoughts have always heard me say a picture is worth 1,000 words and a video is worth 1,000 pictures. So there's a lot of information you can get into 30 seconds if constructed the right way. And I think that's a great way to, during this COVID times, still try to grow your business. While it's in a tough situation to do it, advertising can be that vessel that helps you. What are your thoughts towards sort of advertising in this new COVID world, Nick?
I mean, you really hit the nail on the head, but short and sweet. My take to people when they asked me this kind of question recently is, have you been watching more TV? Have you noticed that you are inside more often? You're watching more TV. You're on your phone more often. People aren't listening to the radio right now. I was reading a report the other day. There are less car accidents. Lawyers are looking for work because there have been so many less car accidents over the past 6 months than there has ever. So the fact that, we are all at home right now, and this is how we're really viewing our media, is what's most important. People are getting newspapers once a day.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting, if we can put your ad in front of people multiple times a day across their screens where they're already watching. And with digital ads, it's interactive. So it's not just the TV playing in the background in the living room. It is somebody physically clicking play on their favorite episode or something like that, clicking play on a highlight, and then they see your ad, not skippable, and we're able to track those, exactly how long they view it, all that kind of stuff. So I'd say it's definitely changed. It's shifted to more digital, like you said, Zach, and it's just become more important. Like you said, getting that message out there to your potential customers is definitely should be at the top of your mind, because right now that's exactly what people are doing. They're staying at home and they're spending more money on things that aren't restaurants, bars, movies, concerts,
Right. And we got a good follow-up question from Joy, but I'm gonna go through this last slide and then we'll get back to you, Joy. And I have a follow-up question to your follow-up question. So, and if you are able to jump on the chat, Joy, after we get through this page, that would be great too. So we don't have to do it all through chat. But let's just run through this small business game plan right quick, and then we'll get back to Joy's question. So I put on here, in order to take advantage of what the TV and digital advertising landscape can offer, you must have a series of assets in place. So the first one is what I kind of mentioned before, an updated website. Doing TV and digital ads, leading people to, whether it be your website homepage, or if you create a landing page specifically for the ad, which I do recommend, having that in order, having, your tracking mechanisms, taken care of on the back end. That's something that I wouldn't approach, the opportunity to actually spend money to place an ad until I knew that whole life cycle of where that's going to lead people, what, is my call to action there. And then of course, what is that next step? Sometimes folks will spend to get influx of business and they personally cannot handle that increase, and be prepared. You might say, I'm doing this to get, 30 clients, and getting 300. And sometimes that could be a bit of a problem. Another big thing in relating to that are Google Analytics and having the ability to do your own, data and analyzing of the folks who come your way. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but once someone uses, a digital ad campaign, let's say they're doing it with Effective. We'll talk about that. Let's say they're using it, and then you run an ad and 400 people go to their website. After they go to their website, you guys aren't tracking them anymore. There's nothing else that's really on your plate in terms of helping that client do business. It's now on them, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's big, where the conversation always goes to the creative. We can bring the customers to your website. We can bring them to your door. We can't guarantee a sale. We can't guarantee that the creative's right. And those are all things that we need to, that's part of optimizing the campaign. If we notice something isn't working, that's why we go back and fix it. Because we truly have something for everybody, every type of business, every, agent, anyone that's looking to advertise, we can help them with our data.
Right. Engaging visuals, which just leads a little bit into Joy's follow-up. I think that is one of the most important parts. Like if I'm going to place a video or an ad on TV, on a streaming platform, that's one of those things where you can't have a visual or an ad that doesn't convey what you need it to convey and do it well. Like, it's rare at this point that I see a poorly done commercial or ad on TV or while I'm watching, and I have an eye for it. I do produce content. I've made plenty of commercials. I'm critical, almost to the point where I annoy the people I'm watching TV with, because they're just enjoying the moment and I'm sitting there picking it apart like they should have shot this differently. When you are putting out, any sort of message, especially investing dollars and making sure it gets seen, and you've invested in the website and the landing page, and you have all your analytics done, that piece of content has to be, I hate using the word perfect, but it has to be perfect for what the goal is. It has to be able to convey what your mission is. And I'm sure, Nick, actually, let me not say I'm sure, I'm going to ask you, have you ever gotten to a point where someone was looking to advertise with you and you saw the visual and you thought this should probably be changed or adjusted before we actually promote it and spend to put it out there?
I mean, absolutely. We have a great team behind us, an award-winning team in our in-house agency that really helps us get some good insights, because I've only been a part of a few commercial productions. I've obviously worked with the campaigns for a while, but sometimes when they see something, or when I see something and point it out and say, is this really, what you want to put forward at the end of the day?
Mm-hmm.
Because, the creative, it's arguably the most important part. Is that commercial grasping enough to really bring them into your business and show them what you have to offer them? Show this group that you've decided is your audience exactly what you think is going to bring them into your business.
Right. One of the areas that I want to work on and get better at is the promotional graphic side of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned a lot, and I've gained some great knowledge and skill on the video graphic side. But one of the things, almost if you look at this picture on the screen of Times Square, some of those ads you're seeing are still images. And that's something I've never figured out to grasp. How do I get this message across in an image, and probably putting on a couple words, if any, and get someone really to effectively engage with my product. Like, that's the most difficult thing in the world to me. Like, kudos to those graphic designers and folks who are really good at that. I'm learning. But I've always leaned more towards being comfortable with commercials where I can use different mediums. I can use the video, I can use audio, I can use, different things to affect how you feel and how you receive it. It's much more difficult when you're talking about a still image, for sure.
And going off of that, Zach,
Mhm.
those images, a lot of them come back to brand awareness. They don't need to have everything that they have on that billboard in Times Square, because that young man right there, he might have already seen that commercial 40 times.
Right.
And now he sees the ad, and then maybe he's walking down the street and he sees the store. Something like that, where, it's just about timing. And like you said, a little bit of luck of just getting there, but being top of mind when your roof caves in, or when there's a leak, or your car breaks down, having your business be top of mind is the most important thing, so that these decision makers are coming to you first, and they're not going to Google and searching mechanic near me.
No, that's a very good point. And I think that's one interesting thing. And that might actually be the key as to how advertising is different now than it was 10, 20 years ago. Because if you were still advertising like you used to back in the day, a small business couldn't consider it, because it's not about that brand awareness. It's about actually impacting sales. They're not at a size and a scope where you can just put the money out there and it be people recognize it, realize it, don't need any detailed information. They just, it's that brand awareness play. Because you can be so targeted with the data now, you can spend in that space and it really be more about effectuating sales and not brand awareness. But of course, the more you're on TV and streaming platforms, that brand awareness comes with that, which is a great sort of double benefit. Another thing we have on here is your goals and KPIs, or key performance indicators. I think that's really key. And I think I touched on a little earlier, Nick, when I said, if your goal is to, just advertise for 2 weeks because it's coming up on a holiday and that's your busy season, and you want to put out a targeted promo, and, you need to know going in how much business you're trying to get from it. Because again, you don't want to undershoot. And of course, sometimes too much business can be bad. Can you speak a little bit to that, about setting goals prior to doing advertising?
Absolutely. So one of my key things that I work with all my clients is, during our discovery meeting, we discuss exactly what a new customer is worth to them. What is the minimum amount that if you get a sale, someone is going to spend here? And then we really use that to kind of create the budget. For these small businesses, a lot of them don't have a marketing budget, and they're seeing it as an investment that I can gain new customers every month. But we like to get it to a certain point where, let's say you discover you need 3 new customers every month to get the minimum package that you sell to cover your advertising budget. That means everyone over 3, or if you get 6 that month, you're covered for 2 months. If it continues to snowball like that and you continue to get more people in with an effective campaign, then you're going to cover your budget, and you're going to see the point of the investment. You're going to see your business grow. You're going to see that customer base really grow with it.
Awesome. And last but never least, the B word. You got to have a budget. If you don't have a budget, yes, there are ways to advertise and promote. I will champion social media for that all day. But even when it comes to social media, sometimes it helps you to spend a few dollars to boost a post or to get it in front of the right eyes, because you can't just rely on hashtags. You can't just rely on, sharing it out and your friends and family helping you get viewers. Like, that's definitely stuff you should do. And that's the free route and the best route to not spend any money. But spending dollars in advertising, whether it's big time or small, a budget, is something you need. And in relation to this game plan, updating your website, if that's not something you can do on your own effectively, then you're spending to get some assistance in doing that. Creating visuals. Most people who own businesses aren't also videographers. So chances are you need to spend dollars to create a quality promotional video. Shout out to myself in case you need somebody. So all these different things cost dollars. And then, of course, when you go to a company that's actually going to place it, whether it be like, for example, Nick's company at Effective, I'm sure there's other brands that do this as well. But if you're going to go to step to them, you need to have a budget and knowing what you want to spend. And Nick, do me a favor, give people sort of a ballpark idea if a small business wanted to get their commercial placed, what's the type of budget they would have to look at to really make an impact or really kind of move into this sort of marketing opportunity?
Absolutely. So, it all depends again on the goals, and everything is custom, but average, I'd say our normal spend for a very effective spend level, including TV, all of our services, and some high value programming, it's usually about 2 to 3 a month, for 2 to 3 thousand a month. But we actually have just developed a brand new system with our ad planner account executives that are some of the best in the industry, that they could actually walk you through how to do a campaign if you're a very small business for as low as $400 a month. So that would be a completely digital campaign that would be able to give you that very micro targeted group. And that's for businesses that need to see it work. They want to see, but that $400 a month will still get you over 10,000 impressions towards that view or towards that group in your audience zones.
Wow. That's super awesome. Because I think when most folks even think advertising digitally, I think they initially think thousands of dollars, and that's usually why they don't make a phone call or don't reach out.
Or they hang up on me.
Right. But you start talking, $400, that's, $1,000 a quarter, that's a little more realistic, especially for small local business. So we'll definitely have to make sure we cut this little piece out and share with folks so they know, hey, start the conversation. Even if $400 a month is not where you're at now, but that's where you want to grow to, start the conversation. That's important and imperative.
Once it grows, you're able to add in this high value programming. You'll be able to see that $400 a month could grow to $800 a month. I've had clients that have grown even more than that
Right.
They've seen it work and they see it as an investment. They know you get in what you put out. And that's really what it comes down to working with us.
Right. So now I really do appreciate it. I'm going to get to just a couple questions. I'm going to leave, I'm going to do so. We got your info up on the screen. So yeah, again, if you guys want to connect directly to Nick, you got his email right there on the screen, Nicholas_Celenza@Comcast.com. Quick sidebar. So I was saying effective all the time, and originally I read it as Effect TV, and I didn't know what was going on. And when we spoke, his email said Comcast. And I'm like, I know Comcast. I don't know about what this company is. And he educated me that this is actually the new branding of Comcast Spotlight. So if you've heard of Comcast Spotlight, which I'm sure most people in this area have, this is that next level. This is that rebrand. And I love it because effective TV, effective, like it's just nice. It plays well. There you go. Just lean into the side to show you the logo. So yeah, these are the pros. Nick is with the #1 cable provider in the world, maybe. I'm not quite sure.
Definitely our country.
Definitely our country, at least. Cool. That's awesome, Nick. So let's get to some of the questions. First, Joy had a follow-up. So she said, people are paying more for video services where they get to skip advertising. Do you think that model is sustainable, and how will advertising evolve around ad blockers or Netflix? So one question I had following up was a little bit of an example of paying for more for video services where they get to skip advertising. I wasn't quite sure about that model. Like, I want to learn a little bit more. So are you saying people are paying for videos to get done, and the people who did the video are handling advertising of the video? Is that kind of what you mean? I was hoping to just get some more clarification on that.
I think she might have meant like Hulu. Like, you know how you can pay $7 a month for Hulu, but then if you pay $13, you don't get ads.
Oh, okay. So when I hear video services, I'm thinking about like video production. You're talking more like streaming services where...
If I'm not mistaken, that's what I'm gathering.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem, Joy. Thanks, Joy. So
Hi, Zach. Hi, Nick.
Hi.
Hey,
You're talking about streaming services, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. Any thoughts towards that, Nick? I have some, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, no problem. So a lot of those giants, they really like to do their own, and we don't offer anything that's skippable. What we like to do, we wouldn't insert on Hulu, Netflix, anything like that, because they have their own carriage agreements. But what we're able to do is actually get to these people however they're watching. So our impressions are guaranteed every month. It's not like you're not going to hit a certain number. If you pay for 10,000 impressions, you're going to get them. And if you don't this month, we're giving it to you next month. So they're going to view it. And it's just a matter of if they view it on a website, if they view it on an app, anything like that. But for the certain video services that you're talking about, we actually don't even bother inserting on them because of that. Because I know I pay that extra $5 a month, so I don't have to see a commercial. Oh, Hulu is terrible with it. You know, it's like every 10 minutes, it's 4 minutes worth of commercials. It's awful. But so that's kind of where we're at with that.
And I look at it in a way where even though you won't be able to stop platforms from offering it and basically, you know, platforms that don't have ads, like I wish I was a platform that didn't have ads because my dollars are coming from somewhere else. You know, they're coming from other revenue or other streams that don't impact the enjoyable experience of my customer. Like, I wish I could be in a position of Netflix when it came to every single platform that I have a hand in, because more often than not, I have to put commercials on different shows, or I have to figure out some other mode to generate, you know, income. So I think the win that you have here, Nick, is that not everyone is on Netflix. Not everyone is using these other platforms. You know, not everyone has that opportunity, whether it be they can afford it or not, choose to afford to spend for it or not. Me personally, I kind of like commercials sometimes. I know that sounds really weird, but I'm on social media way more than I want to be because I manage a lot of accounts for other folks. So when I'm watching a show I want to watch, the commercial gives me time to look in the phone and, like, you know, send some messages or do a little update. Sometimes I'm checking email. So like I've actually gotten to the point where if I'm watching like a program that's like an hour, I want it to have commercials because I need some breaks. But I'm also weird, so that's probably
strategically using your time.
It's very strategic. I'm very strategic with it. We have a question that came in from Facebook. Oh, Joy, I love that question too. I'm gonna ask that in a second. But we got from Facebook here. What is the recommended number of times that an ad should be repeated in a campaign for it to show results? I know you can't expect to run a commercial once and get something out of it. So what is that repetition of how many times you got to run an ad to really see something happen?
So we like to keep it at about 3 months. 3 months is what we like to see, just as that's our effective time, that the first time you see an ad, you're not acting on it. You know, like we were talking about with the young boy in Times Square. You know, he might have seen that ad 40 times, but it's about being there exactly when he needs it. So that's why the brand awareness part of it is key. But normally we like to keep it at about 3 months, and then that way we can track if this is working or not. And if it's not, maybe it's the audience, maybe it's the creative, maybe it's the location. You know, we can edit all of that. But I would say you would definitely have to hit the same group multiple times.
Got you. Now, Nick, to go in a little further on that, if I say I'm running my commercial 3 months, is that running every day? Is that running like multiple times a day? Like
Absolutely.
What does that breakdown look like to be effective?
So it would be a mix of the multi-screen and the TV campaign. So the TV would be running every day. You know, it depends on how many commercials you're getting a day, which depends on the investment amount. But the digital side of it is running at all times. I could be on my phone at 2 a.m. scrolling through something and have that pre-roll ad. But as long as I am on my IP address in my house that is associated with my audience segment, so that would give me that ad at any time. So those are running, like I said, at all times. TV is running dependent on the investment amount, but normally every day, multiple times a day.
And I'm curious, outside of like Comcast TV, what are the most popular apps or programs, or I don't know if I'm using the right word, platforms? What are the most popular ones that Effective runs ads on?
So a big thing, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Roku's.
Yep.
So on Roku, you have apps, and those apps do not have any agreement with any cable company besides us. So we have carriage agreements with the apps through Roku. We are the biggest inserter on Roku by far. So with that, we're able to see it. Like, that's where the HGTV app came up. You know, that's someone that's clicking on their Roku to that channel rather than going through the Xfinity stream where we also insert, but they're actually going on these apps where we can track and see. So I'd say a majority of it comes from that, you know, different videos and websites people are watching on, but also just different content. You'd be surprised the amount of different content we see on there, whether it's Sling TV, Vudu, you know, random things that people are viewing their TV on that we're able to insert.
No, that's really interesting because I know, you know, I'm an HGTV guy, and they always are telling, download the HGTV app, download the app. And I'm like, Why would I download the app? I'm watching you right now. Like, I don't need you 24/7 HGTV, but I do get it. And now that I'm realizing that like millions of people have downloaded that app, and now whenever they go on that app to watch any of their HGTV shows, they're in that funnel of demographics that you may be hitting based on what your clients want to promote to.
Yep. And that's, it's not based on the app too. That's the biggest thing. You know, it's based on the audience. So if I'm here in my house and I'm your audience segment, whatever I go on website wise, if there is an advertisement with a pre-roll ad, it will be inserted there. There's no, you know, this audience is only targeting on these apps. That's how it is with channels. You know, we're able to use our first party viewership data to really track what groups are watching which channels. Mm-hmm. But for the digital side of it, it is all IP address based, very micro targeted advertising.
Gotcha. Last call for questions. I'm going to read one more we got here from Joy. But of course, if you're watching on Facebook or if you joined us on Zoom, give us some questions because we're going to wrap up in just a few. But Joy threw a good one out here. She said, what's your all-time favorite commercial? And where I love this question, Joy, I also hate this question because like I probably can't choose. And I'm right now having one of those brain farts to try to decide like, all right, this one or that one or this one or that one. So I'm gonna let you go first again, Nick, because right. I don't even know my answer yet. I'm probably going to give y'all like 2 or 3. But favorite commercial all time.
So, you know, I'll be biased. I'll take my bias out of it. And I won't pick any of my clients. Hopefully none of them are watching. But I would say the one that I use for the most, you know, conversations, brand awareness, it still replays in my head all the time. That freecreditreport.com. And it's not because I like the website. It's not because I like the business. It's because that song right now, I could sing you the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
That was a fantastic model. It was a great campaign for them to really build that brand awareness. And if this was, you know, 6 years ago and you started saying, you said the first 3 words of it, you could get anyone in a bar singing it. You know, it was just very catchy. And that's huge. You know, people are able to identify that business by it. So I use that in conversations all the time when I bring it up and I say, you know, did you know that song on the first go around? But are you unfamiliar, Zach? Are you telling me you don't know it?
No, I'm familiar.
All right, cool. You were looking around like, what's he talking about?
I'm in my head thinking about my commercials right now.
Yeah, I'd say that one just because it's been very helpful for me and people recognize it when I try and share that, you know, that's what brand awareness is.
Right. No, that's a good one. So, like I said, Joy, you threw me a curveball here. I'm going to name 3 things, and the first 2 technically aren't commercials. I'm very much when I think of a good commercial, I'm thinking 30 seconds or less. But you have seen longer videos on commercial slots before. One of my favorite ones was last year. I think it was the NFL's 100th anniversary promo that they did, which it was like a luncheon of all the Hall of Famers, and they started playing like football, jumping off of tables and tackling each other. That whole time I was watching it, I was just thinking about like how fun it would be to be shooting that. So I was just like, every time I saw that commercial, I just got excited and had to like just focus in and watch it. Another one that I would say is more an explainer video than a commercial is the piece that they made for the Squatty Potty. If you remember, like the unicorn, the rainbow unicorn that was pooping ice cream, and they used it as an example to showcase the effectiveness of the Squatty Potty. Now it's like a 1.5 minute, maybe even 2-minute piece, and I'm sure they made like a 30-second commercial. I don't remember it, but in terms of producing like a video to promote a product or brand, that one knocked it out the park. And to be more specific related to commercials, I mean, it's hard to choose one. I got to go with the commercial champs, man, Geico. You know, my long-term dream is I want to make like commercials in that campaign sort of a style where, you know, the style of our commercial, they're always the same. They're really funny and catchy, and Geico's knocked that out the park multiple ways, to the point where I even enjoyed when they started doing their commercials to get you to vote on what was your favorite commercial. Like when they would have all the different characters from the commercials in one. I thought that was so awesome. So, you know, Geico wins all commercial titles for me. Hopefully they see this and want to hire me or give me some sort of, I'll take an internship, Geico. Like, let me know. We can get busy. But let me just check right quick to see if we have any other questions. Actually, no, Joy, if you're still on the line, what's your favorite commercial? You're not going to throw this at us and then not jump into the fray. And let me just check on Facebook, see if we got any.
All right, I will answer while you're there looking. So one that comes to mind, I think is probably 30 years old, but they still play it. It's the kid who is coming home after playing in the snow, and he's a snowman, and his mom makes him the Campbell's the chicken noodle soup, and he melts back into a kid. But it's one of those like heartwarming ones that you don't forget, and they still run it because it works.
Very classic, very seasonal. You know, one of those things where like it's almost like a Christmas Story. You're going to see that movie around the holidays, and then you're also going to see that commercial come back into rotation around the holidays. Yeah, that is a good one. That's a good one.
That one and the one where the soup can rolls. I always like that one. But I think Corona stole that recently and made their Find Your Beach one with it. The soup can rolls all the way home and follows them. I love that.
I don't know if I remember that one.
You ever seen that? So the Campbell's soup, you know, the little girl's walking in the aisle and she tries to pick it up and her mom says no and it falls off the shelf and it rolls all the way home. And now Corona does the same thing with like their can. That it rolls down a hill or something, someone else picks it up.
I don't want Corona following me home. Not.
I think he's referring to the beer and not the not the virus.
No, that's another good one. And here's another thing too. I feel like we got a whole nother chat about commercials, and they just gotta be categories. Because if you want to go heartfelt commercial, like there are some really good ones I've seen that I would steer that direction. And you know, then there's comedic ones, and there's, you know, the commercials that don't really have anything to do with the product until the last half a second. You know, there's so many good different types of commercials, but again, I'm a commercial snob, so I could be here another hour talking about it. But listen, Nick, really glad to have you here today. This was a great discussion. Can't wait to share this on YouTube to our LinkedIn folks and other people who might want to check it out. Again, if you are watching, listening, you can reach Nick at Nicholas_Celenza, that's CELENZA at Comcast.com. Of course, here at Navitas, we always offer 20-minute consultations. So you can email us at energy. That's actually what Navitas means. Navitas is the Latin word for energy. So you can contact us at energy@navitasmarketing.com. Look it on the screen. You can also see my socials and Kevin's socials, which Kevin, you ain't chime in today, Kevin. I feel like Kevin was watching us and peeping. I think he had some Zoom issues. So we'll let him slide today. It's probably good because this would have went like an hour and a half because Kevin would have, he loves at least half of these different topics. He would have jumped on all over it. But you can follow and connect with Kevin and myself at the handles on the screen. And yeah, any last words, Nick, for the folks?
I want to say thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. You know, I love discussing what we do, and just happy to be working around, you know, other marketing professionals like yourself.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So again, thanks everybody for watching, and peace. Look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
See you guys.